You're listening to the Hunt Stealth Podcast with Ryan Uffins, the podcast where we dive headfirst into the wild. Whether you're an aspiring hunter or an adventurer seeking the untamed, together we'll explore the strategies and stories that lead to success in the great outdoors.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Hunt Stealth Podcast. Excited to have Nathan Cox on the show today. Nathan is seventh generation mountain man who grew up in the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. He's a game warden. He's been hunting his entire life, and we're excited to have him on the show today. Nathan, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ryan. It's definitely an honor and a privilege to be featured here today.
Nathan, tell me, I'm excited to talk to you and get to know a little bit about your background. Like I mentioned, you're a seventh generation North Carolinian, I guess. Is that what you'd call it? Mountain man out there.
Yeah, or North Carolinian. I guess that's what they call us, something like that.
Yeah. Either way, you've grown up in some beautiful mountain ranges out there. But tell me, I know we talked a little bit about it, but tell me about some of your first memories that you had out hunting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I grew up in a farming family, and farming and hunting on the East Coast, it kind of goes hand in hand. So, my first experience is, hunting as a child where small game hunting, my grandpa, he had a pack of beagles and, he loved rabbit hunting and small game hunting. And, we would, at the time, we were growing Christmas trees. So where I'm from, it's pretty much the Christmas tree capital of the world. So, had a lot of members going out with my grandpa with his beagles. And, my first little gun was, a Stevens single shot, 20 gauge. And, it was kind of one and done. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. So, that was all I had. So started out small game hunting and just kind of progressed a little bit. Once my dad saw I was a little more comparable and, wouldn't shoot myself, he started taking me, dove hunting and just kind of grew from there. Started rabbit hunting, went to dove hunting. And then, as I got a little bit older, we just progressed to big game hunting and whitetail hunting. And it wasn't probably until I'd say I was a teenager until, I really got serious about big game hunting. Here in North Carolina, our big game animals are, deer, bear, and whitetail. So that's when I got serious about big game hunting. Some of my fondest memories, my first deer I ever shot, I was like 13 or 14 and I was like sitting on a bucket, behind a field. I didn't really know what I was doing. And, my first deer I shot was like a little spike 4-pointer. It looked like that deer Elliot off of the kids movie, man, and tickled to death to kill it, man.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, it's I'd mentioned to you, like, I didn't grow up hunting and this is kind of new. So it's fun that you've been able to have those memories growing up with your family, going out hunting, starting with like the small game and working your way up. Now you're also a game warden, correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct. Yeah.
What led you, like, what drove the desire to become a game warden?
So, growing up, my father was in law enforcement. He was a trooper and, I was around law enforcement all my life. And, I came to the realization, that I didn't want to ride around in a patrol car all day and write speeding tickets. That just wasn't for me. I still enjoy the law enforcement aspect, but I also wanted to incorporate the hunting side of it because, hunting is a passion of mine. So, growing up, my father always had different officers coming over to his house and, they were working all kinds of cool details and things like that. And, my father had a really cool guy come over. His name was Ryan Blankenship, and this guy was a game warden. And man, solid hunter to this day, man. I mean, freaking got his world slam turkeys. I mean, freaking awesome hunter. So he kind of took me under his wing and, just started showing me the craft, of like things that would help me to be a game warden and to be proficient at it. And I fell in love with the idea of it.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I think of the game wardens, and I've watched some of the shows like on Prime Video and Netflix and stuff like that. It would have to be a little unnerving because you're out with people that are hunting, and when they see somebody coming, what do they use for their binos? Binos? They use their scopes. So you oftentimes have rifles pointed to you. Does that, I mean, it's got to be unnerving a little bit.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And, that's always in the back of your mind. But, I tell people, when a game warden approaches you, we're kind of like the abominable snowman. A lot of people have claimed to see us, but, every now and then, we'll just pop out of the bushes. So a lot of
Yeah.
times, well, a lot of times when a game warden, approaches you, the majority of the time we've already observed you. We've made a game plan and established a way to safely make contact with you. But there's always that chance. We don't see everything. So and fortunately, Ryan, I'm very proud to say that being a North Carolina game warden, it is one of the hardest training programs as far as being a game warden in the country. We get some of the best training as far as our state law enforcement goes, and that's something that I'm very, very proud of. That North Carolina has done. Being a game warden and being a trooper in North Carolina are some of the best trained law enforcement programs, and I'm very, very proud of that.
Well, I think this podcast is targeted to people that are new hunting. And I guess maybe just a friendly reminder that if you see somebody approaching you, don't be lazy. If you're hunting with the rifle, put your gun down and grab your binos and use your binoculars to look and see what's coming, not your scope, because you guys have families. And, I think for the most part, nobody's going to be pointing a gun with the intent to like pull the trigger and shoot you. But I mean, accidents happen, right? So if you think you see somebody approaching you and you're hunting with the rifle, put it down, grab your binoculars to look and see what's coming. I guess that's our little public service announcement for the day on the Hunt Stealth podcast.
Yeah, sounds great to me, man.
So tell me, maybe like for people that are new to hunting, like big game hunting, like what's some of like the most common mistakes that you see people making from like a new hunter perspective that like maybe, hey, think about this and it's going to make you a little bit better and keep you out of trouble?
So one thing that I see, a lot of hunters are making mistakes of is like tagging requirements. Okay, so like when you pull out a regulation book, man, I don't care what state you go to, whether, you guys in Utah or here in North Carolina, if you're not familiar with some of the terminology that, are in our regulations digest, it could be completely foreign to you. So, one of the mistakes that I see is, people not exactly sure how to validate their tags or to report their harvest here in North Carolina. And, I think that's an important job that us game wardens we have to consider because, at the end of the day, when I look at violations, I don't necessarily look at violations as they're black and white. To me, I look at violations as what is the intent? Is this person actively trying to break the law or is this just a simple mistake? And one thing that I'm very glad of, and I can say that, the Wildlife Commission, who I work for, does a really good job of letting us officers have that discretion so that when we truly feel like, somebody has just messed up, that they're not generally trying to break the law, that we can take this moment and we can educate them, so that would prevent them from having future violations. To me, I'm all about gaining compliance. Whether that means giving a verbal warning, a written warning, or a hard citation. If I can most of the time, if I can, gain compliance with just a verbal warning, that's the route that I choose to take. Because at the end of the day, to me, a good game warden can distinguish between somebody whose intent was truly to break the law, and then versus somebody who just made a mistake. We're all human.
So they kind of give you some agency to decide, like, hey, like, I'm going to give this guy, like a pass, right? So to speak.
Sure. Within reason.
Right.
We still have, you know, laws like depending on the severity. We have situations that, regardless of whether they truly didn't know or not, our hands are tied. It would equivalent to a law enforcement officer checking somebody for like a DWI. When it comes to that point, it's out of our hands, and
right.
we have a job to do.
Right, but if it's like they like you said, like they tag their animal, right,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't notch it correctly.
Correct. Yeah.
And it's like you say, you can see it's like, well, this guy's just an idiot. He wasn't intent. Well, when I say idiot, I'm saying like I could see me doing something like this because I get out there. I've yet to like take a big animal. It's like I haven't, like, that stresses me out. As a matter of fact, I just got my tag today. Just showed up in the mail.
There you go.
So I'm like, okay. I start looking at all the little things I'm supposed to notch, and it stresses me out. I'm going like, man. Anyway, fortunately, I'm going to be with some good guys that know what they're doing. But like you said, like, take the manual with you, read it. It kind of gives you the instructions, but it still stresses me out. Like I said, new to hunting, I don't know. But that was something where hopefully a game warden. But that's the thing. It's like, oh, this is my first time. They're going to look at a guy like me and be like, come on, man. This is not your first time. I'm like, no, like, I swear.
Yeah.
But the other thing too that I've heard of people doing, like when it comes to like reporting the harvest, like in Utah now, if you don't report and you're supposed to, like, you'll skip a year, you'll lose a year of eligibility the following year to be able to put in for a tag. Is that similar in North Carolina or?
No. So, as far as tagging our big game animals, so like the requirement for our big game, which is deer, bear, and turkey. So, before that animal is moved from the side of kill, which, as soon as that animal drops, okay, that's the side of kill. So as soon as you walk up to that animal and you drag that animal from where it died, okay, by our law, you have to validate. When we send out tags, we have what's called a big game report card, okay, and it's got your tags on it. So you have to validate that card. So if you have the app, simple. Click on the animal that you just harvested, boop, push a button, and you're completely done. Okay, so if you don't have that app,
why do we not have that in Utah? Holy cow.
Hey, man, Ryan, don't feel bad. We just got it a couple of years ago, so we're not that tech savvy, but we're getting there. We're trying. We're taking baby steps in North Carolina. So
that's pretty slick. I mean, I'd imagine like too, it would be like geo-marked with their cell phone, like at the place of the kill. I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing, but
yeah. Oh yeah. So, that's a good thing about it. So that's an office day for me. If somebody's claiming to kill something where they didn't, that's when I sit in my pajamas and, look at the cord and say, no, they really didn't kill it there. But, but no. So if you have the app, you can punch it and it records everything for you. If you're doing it the old school way with the paper tags, you actually have to, there's numbers, there's the date you killed it, the month, you have to notch it or circle it. And then at that point you have until noon of the following day in North Carolina to call that animal in, unless that animal is dismembered or skinned to where an officer could walk up to it and couldn't distinguish what the sex of that animal is.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and I know, and maybe I misspoke, but like, yeah, like you're supposed to tag the animal where it drops. I mean, it's the same in Utah. I think that's pretty much like standard across the country.
Sure. Yeah.
But the harvest report, like at the end of the season, they send out a link that says like, did you harvest an animal or did you not?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't fill out, if you don't click on that link and go and report, I mean, it's like just a couple of questions. I mean, it's not
Right.
super, but if you don't do that, you lose eligibility to enter for a hunt the following year.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like the harvest, I mean, yeah, it's your tag, all that fun stuff, but that's one thing that I've talked to some people that are newer to hunting, that they go in there like, oh, it's not letting me enter for anything. And when I say I know some people, like I know some people, and I know one person really well, it was me, because I was like, I'm like, what? I'm like, I disregarded the email. I'm like, I didn't kill anything. Harvest report. In my mind, I'm like, I didn't kill anything. Like, I don't need to fill it out. And then come to find out, I go in the following year, and I'm like, you're not eligible to enter for a draw until 2023, whatever it was.
Oh,
Anyway.
man.
But yeah, so okay, shifting gears off that, like you've probably seen some crazy stuff as a game. How long have you been a game warden now?
So I have been a game warden for about 10 years now. I
So a
came
good
through.
decade.
Yeah, long enough. No, it's
Like
a great.
what's some of the wildest like things that you've seen?
Oh my gosh. So like, man, I've seen some pretty wild stuff. So like for me, one of the, without giving a lot of it away in our tactics, so like my favorite
We're in
thing,
Utah. No one in North Carolina is going to be listening to this.
yeah, yeah. So my favorite thing to do is we work what's called aircraft details. Okay, so spotlighting, which just if you're a new hunter and you're not used to the terminology, pretty much what spotlighting is people will ride around the old school ways and they pick a field that there's a bunch of deer traditionally have been known in that field, and they'll take a spotlight, Q beam, shine the eyes will hit it, stun it, and then people will take a pop shot at it. So
Yeah.
our bread and butter is during hunting season working that night deer hunting. So one instance in particular, we had an aircraft detail, which we've got a pilot and we've got an officer in the plane, and we're flying around, and keep in mind, at the time, the plane that we had is a Super Cup. Okay, it's a two seater. I mean, a pack of Hubba Bubba bubble gum is bigger than this
Yeah.
aircraft in. So we're flying around, and I'm on the ground with another officer, and we're staged, and we're blackout. We've got things that are covering our vehicles, so people can't see. And all of a sudden, you see a Q beam poop poop come across the field, and we're like, oh, we got him. And the airplane, they relay in and say, hey, you got somebody shining. So we're actually on a game land. And so we're running blackout on a game land. By our policy, we can do that because it's not a main road.
Right.
And we've got night vision. We don't have the cool night vision, so I've got like one night vision, and I'm freaking Baja through the game lands, and we stopped this guy, and we heard a shot, stop him. He actually had shot a deer, and he claimed that he had shot the deer with a bow. Okay, I'm like, well, take me back to the side of kill. Let's see it. So he takes us back to it, and man,
So real quick, if you
yeah,
shoot it with a bow at night, that makes it okay?
no, absolutely not. No.
Okay.
No.
I didn't know if there was like a loophole or something, like, hey man, shot it
Yeah,
with a bow. Oh, well then go ahead. We'll let you go.
no. This guy was an idiot. I mean, he was. Yeah, he just no. He this was the guy that we were after. Okay,
Yeah.
He needed a ticket. So anyway, walk up to it, and anybody that's ever hunted, can tell, what a broadhead would do, a bolt or an arrow would do as it passes through. I mean, it's a big gaping hole. We walk up
Right.
to it, and there's just the prettiest bullet hole that you've ever seen in that carcass. And we heard the gunshot. I mean, we could freaking the legs. I mean, rigor mortis just hadn't even set in. I'm sitting there flopping the leg, and I'm like, man, how long did you shoot this deer? And he's like, oh man, it's been several hours. I'm sitting there flopping it and playing with its head. Uh, And then,
It's like,
he finally
it's like, are
broke.
you sure about that?
Yeah, yeah. That's the cool thing about it. But one of my other favorite things to do is working, the deer decoy. So people think that it gets shot all the time, and it's not necessarily the case. I mean, it's hours and hours of work for 2 or 3 minutes of fun. But when they pull up and blow that thing down, man, it's probably the funniest but coolest thing you'll ever see.
Yeah, I remember watching one of like the series, and they had set up that night thing, and they had this elk that was like a dummy, and but like the eyes still like lit up like when you hit it with the spotlight. And it's amazing sometimes like the lengths people will go to try and be like, oh yeah, no, that's not what happened. It's like, okay, well, we have a camera there, a camera there, a camera there, and we watched you. We heard the gunshot, and the guy was, and it was, I think it was a spike. It was a spike, and it was even like he had like an only bowl tag or something. It may have even been like a bowl only unit. It was in Montana, I'm pretty sure.
Sure, yeah.
And anyway, finally, like, I mean, he folded pretty quick. He was like, "Yeah, no, He's like, "Yeah, man, I screwed up." He was there with it. I think he had his daughter and that, and he's like, "I just wanted to put some meat in the fridge, and I thought I could get away with it." And then as soon as he went down that route, like, I felt like they were pretty like lenient with him. I felt like they could have like really like thrown the book at him. But
Yeah.
he was like, "Yeah, no." And then you saw him for like 30 seconds, and he's just finally was like, "Yeah, man, I screwed up." Like I feel like when you're in that situation, like in you're busted, it's like you shoot at an animal and it doesn't move. That's the other thing. It's like at what point do you be like, "Oh, yeah, I'm toast." And then the wardens show up, like, dude, just own you made a mistake, man. I mean, that's one of the things that I've done out here is like I've got a couple buddies that work really closely and that know some of the wardens in Utah, and
Yeah.
they've all been super cool. I like ping them, and I'm like, "Hey, like in this situation, what would I do?" And they're like, just stay away from that, right? Like it's not like you're like right on the cusp, and they're like, just stay away from it. But I feel like too, like a lot of times, like you get people that will like self-report too.
Yeah, and the way I treat that is like I will always work with that person and be lenient to that person if they're man enough to do that. Okay, because I'm a firm believer that you hear cops all the time say, "Oh well, you better tell me the truth." So you've got to give somebody an incentive to tell the truth because like
Yeah,
me, if I go to another state and I know that even if I tell the truth it's not going to help me, and that officer's going to rake me over the coals, I'm going to lie like crap. I mean, you have to, as officers, we have to give the general public an incentive to tell the truth, and you
yeah,
give them that chance and that opportunity.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I think generally speaking, like I don't know, I haven't heard of really bad poaching happening in Utah.
Sure.
Um, and I hope it stays that way. But I mean, everybody, the hunters in Utah, man, like everyone united too. Like we had with that the big beautiful bill and that land grab that Senator Mike Lee was going after.
Yep.
That guy may have just removed himself from the Senate. He pissed off a lot of like conservative hunters out in this area,
Oh yeah.
and the thing, not to completely, I mean, I'm going totally down like a separate rabbit hole, but well, I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to go that. I'm going to do a whole other episode on that. But anyway, people came together from all sorts of walks, because there was a lot of that Western land that they were going to try and sell.
Yeah.
And but back to what we were talking about, it's like that's what I've told myself. It's like, if I screw up, man, like, you just call it in. do do yourself a favor. I mean, you can roll the dice and be like, well, maybe I won't get caught. I
Mhm.
just know my luck. I'd be like, oh, they'll never find out. And about the time like I got everything packed up, a warden would roll up and be like, so what happened?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
but it's is it better, like, and this is just something like I've never experienced, so maybe it's a dumb question, maybe it's not. But like, if you screw up, like, call it in, like, from the scene, right?
Yeah, as best you can, because whether your intention was to, even though you called it in, was to, try to move it or whatever. Sometimes it could give that officer the impression that, even though you called it in, that you were trying to hide the facts. So, yeah, of course, sooner the better. And as far as North Carolina goes, I can speak for the majority of our officers. That um, they'll try to work with you within reason. Um,
Right.
so
There's certain laws, I'm sure you can't just be like, hey, don't worry about it, bud. But
yeah,
there's other things, like you said, like, you can teach it as a learning experience, and I think that's what grows and helps individuals and hunters, especially new hunters, kind of develop like a good relationship with the wardens.
sure.
But I've heard from like multiple people. It's like, find out who the warden is for the unit that you're hunting, and
Hmm.
like, talk to him, like, and then not to say that you're going in there with the intent to do something wrong, but if you do screw up, then it's like, just call it in, own it, and then they're gonna you guys will be more likely to try and work with somebody who you guys feel is trying to be honest and not conceal like the truth of what really happened.
Yeah, that's 100% correct.
So, well, cool. Well, hey, shifting gears, I want to talk like, what's been like your favorite big game hunt that you've been on?
Oh wow. So my favorite was probably went to Canada. So man, I had the opportunity to chase some just monster whitetails in Saskatchewan. And man, growing up, you watch the old VHS, Buck Hunter, and All Game Hunter, Canada in the rough,
Yeah.
and just, oh man, that's my bucket list. And then finally, this has been I think it was 2021 before I had kids, so life changes. But had the opportunity to go to Saskatchewan and a little small town in Goodsell, and I actually got to harvest a really nice whitetail. It's funny, man. I mean, I sound like I crawled out from under a rock, So like I freaking roll into Calgary, and freaking as the plane lands, people start hearing banjo music, when I open my mouth. So, but no, man,
I
just
love it, man. I wish I had an accent.
yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. So, but man, the coolest thing to me about Saskatchewan was here in the East Coast, whitetail is king. That's our bread and butter. We don't have any muleys, so whitetail is king. But rolling in there and then just seeing how massive a 300-pound whitetail is. I remember sitting there the first morning, and man, it was like -10. And I'm from the mountains here, so we're used to cold weather, but -10, that's cold anywhere you go, brother. So
Yeah, yeah.
and I remember sitting in that blind like Dumb and Dumber, and they're just freaking freezing, man. Just
Shivering.
yeah, yeah, just about to die. And then I remember the first doe I saw, whitetail doe, and I mean, she was massive. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, this is the craziest thing ever. And, they still had a foot of snow on the ground. And I remember seeing, bucks trickle in. Of course, if anybody's, ever been up to Canada, the bait piles they have is alfalfa and oats. That's what they like up there. And I remember just walking in and seeing just the beautiful, beautiful chocolate racks on these whitetails, and just the mass that they had. And I sat there for 4 days, before I finally pulled the trigger on one, and that was just watching those just massive whitetails, from something that I was a kid, used to watch on a VHS tape, finally being there was, to me,
That's awesome.
yeah, the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. So tell me, how did your hunt go down?
So it's the craziest thing. So for me, if you have the opportunity to go, you want to bring something home that here in North Carolina, where I'm from in the mountains, our whitetail, since we're in the mountains, a good trophy whitetail, you're hunting about 130 class. Okay, that's our average. That's a big whitetail from where I'm at. Okay,
Right.
uh, it's apples to oranges compared to the Midwest and Canada. So for me, I was so scared that I was going to mess up and shoot a small rack buck because, man, yeah, and I had these guys with me. Man, for months, I was researching, trail cam videos of, Canadian whitetails because the body size are so huge on these massive whitetails that you can't go by the bodies because you'll have a 150-inch whitetail in front of you and you think, oh, that's a scrub buck, man. That's a 120-inch deer. So, you really have to, focus and, count the tines as best you can. So I'm sitting there on the fourth day, and I told myself, I was going to shoot a good, respectable whitetail for me, or I was going to come home with nothing because the last thing that I wanted to do was shoot a scrub buck knowing that deer had potential to be a bigger deer, and you've got an outfitter up there. That's how they make their living. Okay,
Right.
so you don't want to shoot a smaller deer that could potentially take money out of that outfitter's pocket. Okay, so I had that going, and I sat there for 4 days, and on the
You're
fourth,
being super generous too, man.
well, I mean, it's like, I mean,
It's a good mind. It's a good mindset to have. I
it
mean,
will
you've kind of had your plan before you go in, but
that
also, like, I'm sure it wasn't cheap for you to get up there.
Well, and that's the mentality that I think sometimes us as hunters need to break. That mentality of oh, I wasn't gonna come home with nothing because man, it's a gamble no matter where you go, no matter what
Yeah.
speed. It's a gamble.
Right.
So fourth morning, I was sitting there. I was watching a really good eight. Walks in, and he was probably low 140, 142, and I'm like, yeah, this is respectable. Okay, and I look up, and all I see is just trash sticking everywhere. I mean, he freaking looks like Bullwinkle, man. And I'm like, me being from North Carolina, from the mountains, chasing 130-inch whitetails, look up and I see, a freaking 160-inch donkey looking at me. I was like, oh my God, what is this? So, and of course, I'm shooting, a seven mag, 150 grain nozzle ballistic tip. So, I've got the firepower to bring him down, but still, want to make sure good, clean, ethical shot. You're about 70, 80 yards. He walks in and he starts sparring with the eight. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen. The massive big whitetails like that sparring. He walks in, just freaking just plows him. They start sparring right in front of me, and I'm just like, what am I watching? Oh my God. And finally, this 12, he pushes off and stands up, broadside, beautiful shot, one shot, double lung, ran 20 yards and walked over to him. And it didn't really sink in what I had just done until, I laid hands on him. And, the funniest thing was, Canadians, man, I got some really good Canadian friends, really good people. The guide walks up and, I think I have an accent and I make fun of them because I know they have an accent from Canada. He walks up and he's like, oh my gosh, oh, that's a nice buck, eh?
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. That's a ton of fun, man. Yeah, I've said this where I'm at in my hunting career is I'm looking at it and I'm going, at this point, I'm like, is it legal? I just
right.
I want to get an animal down. And if it's legal, I get it. Like you get to a certain point where it's like, hey, like I want to let an animal mature and develop a little bit, but I'm also like I'm gonna kill something this year.
Yeah,
Like,
and there's nothing wrong with that, and I think there's also a place for that. That's what I want new hunters not to get hung up on, chasing,
sure,
but because I will tell you this, to become a better hunter, the more stuff you're gonna have to kill more game. I mean, that's what makes you a better hunter, and
right,
fine tunes your craft. It doesn't matter if you shoot a Boone and Crockett or a Pope and Young. The more animals that you successfully harvest or don't harvest along the way is going to fine tune your craft of being a hunter.
right. Yeah, and I mean we've talked at length with people on here. Like, don't hunt for the Instagram photo. Now, if you're at a stage in your hunting profession, if you will,
Sure.
that where you're like, hey, like there's one guy we had on that's like like they've been doing it their entire lives. It's like every year they want to try and get something bigger,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Great, like go for it. If that's what you want to do, but also if you're new, to your point, you got to learn to kill,
That's right.
um, and especially like shooting archery because it's an entirely different animal.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to close the distance. You have to be able to go back to full draw, hold
Mm.
it, wait for them to get in the position to where you're like, hey, I know I've got a clean shot on vitals. And I mean, that was probably one of the hardest things. It was my very first hunt. I had a massive bull elk broadside. He came in from behind me, but I didn't have a clean shot on vitals. And I had told myself, I've watched a lot of Donnie Vincent's videos and stuff like that, his films that he's done. And I just always liked that he was like, hey, like, I want to have like a clean kill. And there's a ton of other guys that talk about that too. And so when I went out, I'm like, if I don't have a clean shot on vitals, like I'm not going to let it go.
Mm.
And anyway, didn't have a clean shot on vitals. Winded me, blew out. But man, having like a massive bull at 30 yards was unreal. I mean, it
Absolutely.
hooked me. It totally hooked me. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And then, to me, bow hunting, to me, that is the ultimate high for me, whenever I've harvested, shot deer with a bow. I mean, man, it's so much more up close and personal. You have to worry about the wind so much more than sitting in a box house. Tree placement, watching your thermals. Is your stand set up right? Speaking on the East Coast with whitetails,
right.
it's to me, it's probably one of the most rewarding things that you can do.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, like I said, I've yet to arrow anything. I've yet to even let an arrow fly. So I guess I haven't missed anything, but I haven't shot it at anything to miss either. So looking forward to that day coming. So tell me, did you have an experience like when you were out like doing some black bear hunting out there?
Yeah, so here in North Carolina, not many people know this, but the world record black bear came from North Carolina, a county called Craven in North Carolina. Okay, so that bear was over 800 pounds. Not a lot of people know that we have massive black bears in North Carolina. We do, but I'll tell you, if Jim Shockey is coming to North Carolina to hunt black bears, there's a reason. That he's coming to North Carolina. So I'm in the mountains, the Blue Ridge Mountains. Okay, so our bears traditionally, an average size boar, which is a male bear for you viewers, is about a 250 pound. That's a good black bear for the mountains. Okay, the coastal bears, you know, go anywhere from 600 to 800 pounds. Okay, they're monsters. All right, absolute monsters. So our bear population, Ryan, is exploding everywhere across North Carolina, but predominantly the coast and then the mountains where I'm at as well. So that's something that I have recently gotten into the last couple of years is black bear hunting because of the population. to me, man, they just have there's so much more characteristics versus like a whitetail. They're just cool. I mean, I could sit there and watch a bear come in and just I could watch them all day. I've been hunting and in North Carolina, you can't harvest a sow with cubs, but to me, the coolest thing is watching these bears come in and just play and jump. And yeah, that's that monster right there. I mean, over 800. I think it was 1998.
That thing is in. It's well. I think this is a new one. This one
Okay,
was 22.
that was Haywood County. That was like 698 pounds, I think. So that was
Oh yeah.
yeah.
688.
Okay, yeah,
Yep.
688. So monster bear. So where I am at, the most appropriate method to hunt is is still hunting. Down at the coast, they still actually have these big tracts of land where they most predominantly are hunted by hounds. So where I'm at, it's all still hunting. So I've had the pleasure of taking two black bears. I probably just started black bear hunting about 5 years ago, but I help with another foundation. Getting some guys on some bears, and we've had some good luck with that. But man, just black bears to me are some of the coolest big game animals in North America. To me personally.
Yeah, so the Hunt Stealth crew, we were gonna try and get out up to Idaho and go do some black bear hunting.
Sure.
But this spring, but we weren't able to do that. So it's definitely something that we're gonna do. A lot of people have told me, like, if you're into archery and you want to take down a big game animal, the best thing to go after is a black bear.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think I finally found, the 900-pound black bear.
There you go.
Is that it?
Yeah. Well, that would be, that's definitely 800 pound plus. But I believe it was like 1998, and I think the hunter harvested it with a shotgun. And it was over hounds.
So that wasn't it.
No. It came out of Craven County, North Carolina, which is down near the coast, I believe. And like I said, that was 1998. So
1998. You said Craven County?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. My mouse died on me, so I'm having to.
Oh, yeah, top right there. Yep. Oh,
which one?
Yeah. Go back to the last page there. Right there. Yep. The black bear recorded in the world. Right there. The image where it says AI overview. Right there.
Yep. Yeah, it's not letting me click on that.
Oh, okay. I don't know if there's an actual picture.
Oh, there it goes.
So yeah, that
I don't know. I don't know if that's it or not, but
no, that looks more of a Western style picture. But I don't know if they have a picture of it online. But like I said, that's a.
I'm gonna find it now. But that's cool that so that you've gotten into it. And are you doing rifle or archery? What are you thinking of? And maybe you said that. I apologize. I was trying to find that bear when you were talking a little bit about that.
So the first two I took with a rifle, and the next one I plan to take with a bow. But I'll give you some advice as a bear hunter. So everyone has a shot placement on a bear. Everybody's been trained right behind the shoulder. Okay, don't aim right behind the shoulder on a black bear. Go up about 3-4 inches. I call it the middle of the middle. Okay, because a bear's vitals is going to be slightly further back than a whitetail. I watched a freaking 300-pound boar get shot with a 300 Win Mag, and that bear, the shot placement on that bear was right behind the shoulder, and that dude shot up with a 300 Win Mag, and the bear ran for miles. Okay, like I tracked that bear literally for miles, and the only way I found it was with the use of a dog. And man, it was the god awfulest gully that you could ever imagine. I mean, that's how tough you are versus one of the bears that I shot was with a 270, 130 grain bullet, and it ran 20 yards because the shot placement was right. So if you hit a bear where you're supposed to, man, 50 yards is a long run for a bear, bow or rifle shot. And then I also tell, new bear hunters, especially when you're bear hunting, not so much with a rifle, but a lot of times, I've heard, when you shoot it, listen to that death moan, because that's a clear indication that that bear is dying. It's kind of sad, but it's just part of it as being a hunter, knowing that, I mean, if you hear that moan, then you've made a good shot. But at the end, when that bear's laying there dying, a lot of times you'll hear it, and that's how you 100% know that that bear's dead.
Yeah, that's good advice. So aim for the middle of the middle.
Yep, middle of the middle.
Awesome.
Yep.
Nathan, man, it's been fun hearing these stories. As we kind of wrap up, is there any advice you would want to share with somebody that's maybe new to hunting, or maybe just a good reminder? Any tips from things you've been able to experience?
I always say this: just stay humble, and surround yourself with people that are more knowledgeable than you. If you can find somebody that's willing to mentor you, and you keep that humble mentality, chances are, that person is going to take the time to show you their knowledge, and what they know about hunting. To me, even as long as I've been hunting, I don't know anything. I don't know everything about hunting. I try to surround myself with other people that have been hunting for decades longer than I have. So,
Yeah.
If you're a new hunter, no matter what type of game or what type of weapon choice, as long as it's legal, that you want to use, keep that humble mindset. Surround yourself with a good core group, and help each other out, because everybody, no matter what your skill set is, has something to contribute. Okay, don't ever feel like that because you're new to hunting that that you can't contribute something, that when you meet a core group of people that that can help it out. I mean, even guys that are new into hunting that don't have any woodsmanship skills, man, they're great with technology, and how to navigate OnX, all these other apps. Man, I mean, don't be intimidated just because you're new to hunting. I mean, there's a place for everyone.
Yeah. No, I think that's great advice. I think too often people kind of get intimidated to go up and approach someone. And what I've discovered is that, if you treat them with respect and try and be courteous with their time, they'll give you quite a bit of information and share a lot of time with you, to help make you better. Because I think that they want to have like a better all around hunting experience, not just for themselves, but for the hunting group as a core as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Ryan, I know you mentioned my Instagram tag. So if any of you guys, send me a private message. If I can help any of you young hunters or new hunters with my knowledge, man, anything I can do to help, and there's something, you could teach me. I'm just a dumb hillbilly, man. So just anything that I can do for new hunters, because there's nothing more. Everybody says, "Oh, do you want this person to be better than you?" Yeah, absolutely. I would love nothing more to mentor someone into hunting, and they turn out to be 3 times the hunter that I ever was, and that way I'd be like, "Hey, man, I'll get your coffee in the morning, or can you sign my autograph?" Yeah, man, I'm good with that.
Yeah, that's a great mindset. Well, you guys, hey, Nathan, really appreciate your time. Again, on Instagram, it's Blue Ridge _sportsman. And we'll put links in the show notes for anybody that's wanting to go follow him. Be sure and go do that. Give him a follow. And if you have questions, reach out to him, shoot him a DM. Nathan's been great and super responsive with us. I'm glad we were able to finally get our technological differences worked out. If it wasn't me, it was you, and we went back and forth. But again, you guys, thank you so much for listening to the Hunt Stealth Podcast. We are the fastest growing hunting podcast in the nation. Go give us a follow on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, all the socials, wherever you listen to your podcast. And again, stay safe and God bless.